Before we have our conversation with Johnny Moore about his book, Defying ISIS, specifically what's happening in that horrific sweep of the Middle East by that organization, I thought it'd be helpful to let Michael set the stage for us, because he's written a couple of books that are really relevant to the topic. He's written the book called Hatred, you see it there, and subtitled Islam's War on Christianity. And then we have another shot of this book. It's called Michael Coren, Heresy is the name of the book. The lies they spread about Christianity. Let's talk about the global church. Has it ever been quite like it is right now all over the world when it comes to persecuted Christians?
It's a good question. No, I think it's probably worse. Yes, I think it is worse than ever. Because look, of the 20 top countries that persecute Christians, what a league table. China is there. Well, China is a moribund communist dictatorship. It won't be communist probably in 20 years. It's relatively open, but you have to be careful as a Christian. North Korea, well, they persecute everybody. But the rest are all Muslim. And there is a certain ideology behind this. It's not all Muslims. Arguably, it's not Islam. But in Islamic countries, in Islamic cultures, there is an increasing tendency to persecute those who are not like you. It could be Hindu, it could be Buddhist, Jews when they're there, but certainly Christians. Now, Christian communities have lived in Islamic countries for centuries. Yes. They've often been tolerated, although I have to say, Egypt, for example, was a majority Christian country with a Jewish and pagan minority until the rise of Islam. People have to realize that this is the heartland of Christianity. But there was a coexistence to a certain degree. Today, though, Islamic fundamentalism is the great force within Muslim society. It's not secular nationalism as it was in the 50s. It's not a more moderate form of Islam as it was in the 19th century. It's very harsh. And I'm pessimistic. I mean, outside of countries like Jordan, Morocco to a certain extent, it's brutal to be a Christian. At best, you will survive. You won't be treated well. And at worst, you'll either have to leave or you'll be killed.
Well, you wrote this book, Hatred, and this really ends before, when you finish this book, it really ended chronologically before the ISIS phenomenon began. Are there some things that, as you are talking about what was going on toward the end of your book and the birth of Johnny's book, Defying ISIS, are there some elements there that really set the stage for an ISIS to become the reality that it is?
Well, it's an interesting point, because ISIS was known when I was finishing the book, but I thought it was too much to get into that as well. I will say this, ISIS can be a bit of a get-out-of-jail card for some people, because you ask them to criticize Islam's persecution of Christians, and they'll say, yes, we condemn ISIS. Well, hold on, what about other countries? What about Pakistan? Even the government, the blasphemy laws. What about Egypt? Less so under this regime, but in general, the persecution of Christians. ISIS is the most visible, the most vicious aspect of all this, but it's pretty common, it's pretty general now that our allies, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, they're our allies. Try being a Christian there. I mean, Pakistan's particularly brutal these days.
And there was just something in the news just this past week as we're recording this that persecution, deliberate intentional persecution of Christians in Pakistan.
A young boy murdered, but it's happening all the time. I mean, not long ago there was a case where a young couple, they were moving into a new house. They cleared out the house. In one of the boxes was a copy of the Quran. They were unaware of it. They were kidnapped. Their legs were broken so they couldn't escape. They were beaten to death and their bodies burned beyond recognition.
Michael Coren has written these books, Hatred, Islam's War on Christianity, as well as Heresy, 10 Lies they spread about Christianity. And in just a moment, Johnny Moore is going to join us, and we're going to talk about Defying ISIS.